that you were weak, but babe, you're wrong. Yeah, you better step into the light, just give it a try. Think that it's time you let that spark out. You've been hiding in the shadows way too long. And who cares if you might mess it up? You're stronger than the others think. And who cares if you might mess it up? Go ahead and shine, darling, go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine. You shouldn't doubt yourself, 'cause you're a work of art. You should know that you are perfect with those flaws. Yeah, you better step into the light, just give it a try. Know that it's time you let that spark out. You've been hiding in the shadows way too long. And who cares if you might mess it up? You're stronger than the others think. And who cares if you might mess it up? Go ahead and shine, darling, go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine, shine, darling, go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine. You're stronger than the others think. And who cares if you might mess it up? Shine, go ahead and shine, darling, go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine, shine, darling, go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome back to a Turn of Events, where we help put a positive spin on the future of your business. I'm Annette Naif, the founder and creative director of Naif Productions. We are a strategic event production company based in New York City, but we are also based in Boca Raton now these days. We specialize in corporate, social, nonprofit, and weddings. I'm also a coach for wedding and event planners who are looking to start their own wedding and event planning business, or for those of you who are struggling in your current business. You should join us over at our Facebook group, the Event Planners Society. There are so many great, driven, creative, and passionate wedding and event planners over there. We bring planners together from around the world to network, gain referrals, improve their mindset, and build their businesses. You get unbelievable training from me, and we would love to have you in the group. Join us over at Event Planners Society. Drop me a note and let me know that you joined so I can say hello. So my next guest was a client, is always a client, basically, but she is also a very, very dear friend of mine. We became friends over the years, and I helped her plan a nonprofit and a fundraising event. And also she said to me, if I ever get married, I want you to plan my wedding. And 7 years later, I got the opportunity to do that. And I'm so honored, and I just love her so much. So Amanda Sherlip is the principal of Avant Grand Consulting. She is the outgoing executive director of Hands Across the Sea with 2 decades of experience spanning philanthropic leadership, entrepreneurship, and executive management. Amanda brings her multifaceted expertise to helping nonprofits, startups, and small businesses achieve transformative growth. She's also known for her strategic acumen, creative problem solving, and consistent ability to deliver meaningful outcomes. I know this firsthand because I worked with her and she is fantastic. We are going to talk about planning successful nonprofit and small business events. Amanda, I'm so excited to have you here.
Hi, Annette. I always love being with you.
I know. We have the best time. Okay, so first of all, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about how did you get into nonprofits, a little bit of background there, and then we can go from there.
In my past life, I was a violinist.
Yes.
And the arts are publicly funded in the U.S. and they're underfunded, and they are a space where you have kind of the convergence of public funding and donor communities and events. And so I was brought in as a committee member and as a leader to support organizations. And I helped found a symphony and just found myself consistently on committees, getting involved in arts entrepreneurship. And so I really thought I was going to become the director of some arts institute. And instead, I found myself falling completely in love with the bigger picture of the nonprofit and entrepreneurial space. And I come from a line of entrepreneurs. And so here I am, 2 decades later.
Yeah.
And I pivoted and I got my master's in fundraising and nonprofit management. And it's kind of just taken on a life of its own.
Yeah. Well, you're so great at it. So what role do board members play in helping to bring success to fundraising for events?
Ooh. Well,
it's always a big question, right?
Yeah.
So every time I get new clients, they're always like, I have to always let them know the board members are a crucial part of this. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
When you have a board, you've got a diverse group of people who come from an outside space, right? So there's a reason why all of these people have been drawn to the organization, which is because they are intrigued and interested in the mission. And so that naturally makes them brand ambassadors, right? These are non-paid persons who understand and connect with the mission. Ask every board member what they love about the organization or why they came, and it's a different story.
Right.
So here you have that firsthand testimonial and narrative. So it's really powerful for that to get deployed into the world. At the same time, board members are typically accepted onto boards because it's a prestigious position because of their personal, professional, and network capability. So different board members have different things that they can access to serve the organization. Typically, you want one person who's really good with finances. You're going to want, people who have a broad network. But what you're really looking for in your board are people who can govern and people who can fundraise. What you often find in your board is people who really want to drive strategy, which is a very tricky thing. But if your board is really there to serve, they should understand that their role is to be your organization's evangelists. So when it comes to fundraising or when it comes to bringing in support for your organization, you want to access your board and get to know the individuals and really help them to understand the power that they have. If they are so inspired to join your board and give that much time and resource, then they should have the confidence that they can inspire other people because people give to people, right? So I call a board member's friend, okay, doing this as a favor to my friend. But if a board member calls their friend or a board member speaks to their company, it really isn't just a peer-to-peer kind of power. It's them saying, this is something that I stand behind. I put my name behind this. So board members can create friend lists, right? So groups of people who become friends of the organization, come to events, people who they know who can volunteer or share resources. And board members can provide great ideas that can get implemented on other ways to network. I'd say, your board should really be almost like a friend Rolodex.
Yeah. Yeah. And many times we do a lot of nonprofits. We do a lot of fundraising events. And many times they struggle, the client struggles with getting the board to do what they need to do to help with the fundraising. I can't tell you, I'm sure you know this, you deal with the boards. What advice do you have to give to these, the organizations who are hosting these events? How do you get your board engaged? How do you get them to provide their list, reach out to their, a lot of them don't. So it's a struggle, and they're not raising the funds that they need to raise. It really has to come from the board and from their connections and things like that. Now, there is already a list from the organization, but if they're just starting out, they really need to have an active board. And so how do you get them to engage if they're not?
You have to get to the source of why are they not, right? So fundraising is relational. Fundraising has this strange stigma that some people carry around it. I think that there's fear around it of like, you're just going to hit my people up for cash. Now, if you go back in time and you really get to know the history of philanthropy in the US, there's a great quote from, I think it's Rockefeller, where he says, it's not an obligation, it's a privilege, right? Mm-hmm. But what you're really doing through fundraising, if you're doing it the right way, is you're creating community. You're creating opportunity. The greatest thing that you can do for people is give them the opportunity to give back. If you're doing it right, people want to give back again and again, even without tax incentives. The data shows all this.
Right.
So if we know all of that, and then we get to, there's this resistance from the board, you have to work through the process of why. And it's such an important and meaningful process, because getting to that process is the process of building a real relationship with people, having honest conversations with people. Sometimes the development director is the right person for it. Sometimes the executive director is the right person for it. And sometimes an outside consultant is the right person for it. And that depends on so many different variables. But by speaking to board members and understanding why, sometimes a board is as simple as embarrassed by a website, right? We don't think that this website, but people aren't going to just necessarily offer that. I mean, we're from New York, so we'll offer that. But
we're not shy about offering our opinions.
It's embarrassing, right? But there's also the fear of, what are you going to do with my network? The reality is, any person who is raising support, who's worth their dime, is somebody who is here to honor and respect your brand as a person, and knows how to align your brand with the organization in a way that makes it so asking people to participate, attend, give is a reflection of the value that you have. And it's a really nuanced thing. And this is why fundraising is an industry, right? Not a hobby. I mean, the hobby level looks very different. So we're not talking about knocking on people's door and kind of asking people, which is a very effective way, but it's a specific way. We're not talking about creating kind of like pressure that's going to leave people feeling guilt. You never want people to have buyer's remorse. What you want to do is understand, who are you? Why are you here? Who are the people in your world who you think have the capacity, the interest, the inclination to give? What kinds of ways can they give? And sometimes it's even just knowing a person who knows a person that can open up a door to a foundation, right? It's such a personal, relational process. If it's done right, by the end of it, people feel really good, because what they see is, I didn't even know that I had so much power to unleash to do so much good in the world. And it does become a generative process.
Right. And also too, you made a point about their website. So when we work with clients, we check all of that. We want to make sure that their website represents We don't want to work with brands that are sloppy and messy, and that represents us as well. So we make sure that we check all of that as well. We also provide materials that are going to help the board members, because sometimes they might be just shy about talking about the organization, or they don't know what to say, or they don't know how to express all the great things about the organization. So we have the client, obviously we work with them and consulting with them on what materials to provide, even a sample email that might just be here. You pop in your own personal touch, but here's a sample email, how to talk about the event, the organization, statistics about all the great things that the organization has done for, for the community, or whatever that organization is about. And sponsorship levels, the deck for that, all the information that is needed for them to be able to go back to their list, their friends, their family, whoever it is, to help, raise funds for the organization. So that's important too. So make sure that if you are working with somebody, that they are also helping you pull all that information together.
It's all so custom, right? And so the way that fundraising, whether it's for an event or for general, everything is specific, right? But there is this challenge, which you're touching on, which is that people don't know how, right? So there's the resources, but there's also the conversations. And it might sound silly, but, I'll go to board meetings. This part's not silly. I'll go to board meetings and I'll give a presentation and kind of training on like, this is what it looks like. And then kind of just like throw a bunch of ideas out there, right? And you gauge different people's interest in different things. And now you start tailoring what the board activities are going to look like. And then you want to empower people in their own hand. The part that people might feel a little silly about, but it's so amazing, is now doing mock calls and trials conversations with your fundraiser or your consultant. So you walk in and you've already gotten to practice,
right,
and experience what it's like. And if you're practicing right, you also go through what it's like when somebody says no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So that you are prepared and it's okay.
Right. And I mean, at the end of the day, I'm speaking really to the board, these are people that and you're friends with, or you've had relationships with in some way or another. It's always best to get on the phone, right? Emails are cold and they get lost and all of that, but it's always best to get on the phone and have a conversation with people and to do it that way. So
people are honored when they're asked to give. And I watch time and again, people are so afraid to ask people to give. Right. And I think that fear really touches on, like, people have that kind of insecurity of, I don't want people to think that I'm exploiting them. I don't want to undermine the relationship that I already have. And I don't want to take advantage of anybody. But if you're doing it the right way, and if you're aligning the right people, there are people that you don't ask for certain things because they're not interested in it. But if people are really interested, or if you tell people, I have this goal, I'm working on this for this thing I really care about, I'm looking to have, a bunch of friends help me in this way, people do it, and people often feel really good about it. It's a sign of respect of, like, I see you in a certain way. I'd like to invite you to do this thing that's important to me.
Right. Such a great point. So how do you as a consultant work with board members to help them feel comfortable through the fundraising and network building process?
I get to know them. People have, if it's your first time doing it, people might have some fear about, like, the invasiveness of that, like, inquiry process. But it's America, right? So I think the bulk of us have been in, like, therapy, right? Or we go to appointments and we're being asked questions all the time. The process of getting to know people philanthropically and getting to know board members, I don't think it's actually an invasive process. It's a pretty flattering process, right? Everybody's favorite topic is themselves.
Yeah.
You're giving people the opportunity to share about themselves. You're just curating and creating boundaries around what those conversations are about. people wind up walking away, not even realizing all of these positive, power generating things about themselves, about their world, all the ways that they have done. You're opening up their awareness of how much they've done and how much each little thing is so much bigger, right? Fundraising is kind of the art of making everything bigger, right?
Right.
So getting to know them in preparation is knowing who is it that's on the board. You do your own preliminary research, and then you respectfully go in and you go into kind of like inquiry. It's a very standard process. If it feels invasive, it's being done wrong.
Right.
Most likely, right? And
right.
If you're in development, you have to be good with people. And so you have to be able to see when people are uncomfortable. You have to see where their boundaries lie. You have to ask permission. And those boundaries, working within those boundaries, it's great because there's so much opportunity even in the small ones. So, you do your homework on people, you create, your own kind of like portfolio on people, like this is who I'm going to be interviewing. You just go in like any other kind of meeting prepared.
Right.
And then you synthesize that information and you ask people, how can I get back to you? Would you be interested in these opportunities? Are there opportunities that you're interested in, right? And you kind of do both. And some people say, I'm not interested in my name being used, or I don't want to share my network, or I'll share my network, but you have to do the outreach, or you can't reach out to any of my friends, but I will. But right, all of these things are just things. And so you work through that. You either do it yourself or you give other people the resources. And I think it just kind of builds. Now, experienced and seasoned board members, board members at really big nonprofits, this is child's play for them, right? They're used to this. If you're not good at it, if you're not a little bit like strong and almost bordering on pushing, they're like, you're not really doing your job. Right. They're busy. They're fast. They want to know that if they share their very high level context, that you are a smart business person and good at relationships, and that, you're going to make them look good through the lens of, we've got good people leading, this place, we've got a good organization running. And so once you're in that mode, it's kind of just like, hey, we're doing this event. Do you have contact lists that you can this and that? Or I'm really trying to reach these people. And we're talking high level people. I'm trying to reach these people. Is there any way that you can help me access them? Right. So you go right, UV line there. So it really depends. Right.
Great advice. Okay. So what kind of goals, if even if someone's just starting out, or they, I often get asked, how do I determine what my goals should be? How much should I be raising? Things like that. So what kind of goals should they set for their fundraisers?
It depends on where you are in your life cycle. So if you're doing your first fundraiser, you've got to either be very grounded or do your homework, right? Fundraisers are often called friendraisers, right? Mm-hmm. You and I both know that you can make a fundraiser profitable. This is about understanding how to balance your expenses and your revenue, right? So, but you also have to think about your brand and your goals. So is your goal that you want to build community? Is your goal that you want to create the kind of gathering that people want to come to again and again? Mm-hmm. Is your goal that you desperately need operating revenue, which is what fundraisers are great at, right? Programmatic revenue is not the hard catch. Operating revenue is always what you're looking for. You're not going to be getting that from grants typically. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, your goal should be all of those, but you have to start out humble. I do think that you can start out breaking even if you're really smart. Is a tricky thing to think about starting out net positive from the beginning if you're looking to do some kind of big fundraiser. So if you're looking to hold a small gathering, your overhead for that's pretty small. And if you're doing it the right way, your small gathering is either going to be held in somebody's home, right? Or in a donated space, right?
Mhm.
So you find all these ways to get your revenue low, but you have to respect that everything is a business. So you're not going to be getting your printing for free just because you're a nonprofit. Like if every nonprofit got their printing for free, no printers would be
Right. I can't tell you how many times people are like, can you get us a free venue? And I'm like, sorry, those days are long gone.
I mean, we're looking at over 1 million nonprofits in the country at
Yes.
minimum, right? So this is a huge industry.
Yeah.
But you do get nonprofit rates, especially if you're working with professionals, and professionals know how to kind of like get the fat trimmed off and know what fat doesn't need to be there,
Right.
but also know if you don't get that, you're going to have a big problem, right? So guidance. But if you have, to me, the first goal should always be to present your organization in the kind of way that helps people to better understand and connect with the organization, and to create the kind of event and environment and community that people want to become a part of. Because it could take a year or two before you can convert people attending to people who really give back.
Right.
You're competing for their priorities.
Right.
So I think your goals have to be aligned with where you are in your life cycle. Now, after a few years, you make it very clear at your event. You say, if it's your first time, this is our first event, and we're hoping, and you just be really authentic. People love authenticity.
Yep.
And then you say, in order for us to achieve X goal, and even if you say our goal this year is to break even so that next year we can this,
Right.
If we want to break even, if every person in here gives this much, and if the people there give a minimum of that, then you have the right community there. But if the people in there don't, now right? Tell people what you need, and how they respond helps you know who the community is. You don't want to, invite, 150 Freddie freeloaders to something where you're saying we need to give back to the community, but you also need to comp the right people being there.
Yes. The ones that are going to have deep pockets and will donate. So recently we just did a nonprofit. There were only 65 people at this event. They wanted to raise like $100,000, or actually it was $30,000 they wanted to raise. They ended up raising $100,000. So it's not how many people are at the event. It's the right people in the room. So always remember that. I think people are like, oh, we want 400 people for I'm like, your first event, I don't think you're going to get that. And you have no list, right? So that's always a tricky thing. But I always tell them, listen, let's be realistic about it. Because you don't want to get a venue for 400 people and you end up having 100. It's really horrible, because you end up blocking yourself into something. And we always advise against that. So it's not, the amount of people in the room, it's the right people in the room, which you were touching on. So.
But what are they there for, right? What are they there for? So 60 people coming together for the first time for an event who produced $100,000 are people who probably have enough in common that over the course of several years, people are very, very lonely. And being able to go to a place that you enjoy with people that you have things in common with gives you the chance to get to know other people in a meaningful way. It's like, we go to the gym and the grocery store and the bars to like bump into people. That's not the life that we live anymore. And I really do think how we spend our time and how we spend our money really says so much about who we are and what our values are, and what a treasure it is to have the opportunity to opt into something that's by invitation, or that has, a ticket, right? Or a sticker price that allows you to go to a place where you have some kind of expectation of what the environment and the experience is going to be, and the people going to be around.
Right. Especially now since COVID, everybody wants to be out and about, and, events are going crazy now. So speaking of events, what are some ways events play into strategic planning and fundraising for a nonprofit?
Well, I think that they really build your brand. I think that people only think about events in a nonprofit in gala terms. So galas are a very unique world, and you know this, right? There's so much to love about the gala, but people really need to be very thoughtful before engaging in a gala, and because it's not the only form of an event, and it's certainly not the only form of a fundraiser, right? So your gala is your big party once a year that raises your operating funds. And so if you want to do that, you're building your brand, you're building your community. But what are your programs? What are your services? And so how can you have an event that showcases what your programs and services are, or even becomes a part of the value proposition of your programs and services? You can't have 300 people in an interactive program in a way that makes something really meaningful. Events can be a way that you create smaller circles of community that now it gets really curated. So let's say your nonprofit has 3 programs, right? Not atypical. And you might have all these programs that you deliver out into the world. Well, what if you want to convert some aspects of that program into something that's more specialized within it? So let's say you're dealing with environmental programming, and now you want to deal with something that's very niche, and you want to bring in some experts who can give a high-level talk or a conversation. This is really serious access. And the beauty of a nonprofit is you get experts who are willing to do events for nonprofits at either reduced rates to the nonprofit or even free if it's a board member. And these are people who sometimes won't even walk into a room for less than $20,000 for, a half a day.
Right.
And so when you're able to bring that to an event space in a nonprofit world, and they're doing it because they care about the mission. They're doing it because they want to raise funds and because they're having fun, right? Like if you're doing something in a more volunteer way, you get a lot more leeway of this is fun. They also get a chance to work with people who in another setting they wouldn't. So
Right.
you can create a whole event around this, whether it's a small lunch or a talk. You can do online things. I think that you're able to create revenue streams and build community and have fun. And from that, you now get source material. Now you have, new documents, transcripts, quotes, testimonials, photos, the kinds of things that actually take a lot of work and resources to pull together organically through the year. And now it's like, oh, we have this one place we can get the photographer. And then people go out and talk about it. And people are like, I went to this thing and it was this. And someone's like, I want to go to something like that. And then it kind of becomes a part of the annual canon, oh, well, we did this now. People will talk about it years later. Oh, I remember, in 2012 when we went to this, and that was where I met this person. And now this person is on my board for this or is hired. But right. It takes on a life of its own.
Yeah, for sure. So as a consultant, which I know I've worked with you, so you're so amazing. So what kinds of things does strategy and fundraising consultants do, like yourself, to help a for-profit or even a nonprofit create plans and events that create successful outcomes?
Well, it starts with getting to know who an organization is and what their goal is and kind of going through that journey, right? It's a little bit of the same formula across the board, which is everything starts with getting to know the person and asking them the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
So for a for-profit, for instance, since we've really focused on nonprofit, there might be a company that has a business model. Now, if we think about the nonprofit world and we draw from there, right? There's a lot of, everybody thinks that there's so much lesson to learn from the corporate world for the nonprofit world. It's pretty saturated, right? Those lessons have been really derived. There's so much to learn from the nonprofit world for the for-profit world. And in this case, I would say if you get to know, So if you draw from the nonprofit world and you think about events, tickets do not cover the cost of an event, right? And
Correct.
So tickets help subsidize things, but you still need to raise funds from individuals in order to make things successful. So in the corporate world, people are looking for their like primary activity to fund their business model all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's not always feasible. And a lot of the time people find that their bread and butter comes from secondary activities, and it helps to grow the brand. For me, I think of my own wedding, let's say, right? Or I think of kind of this movement that's happening in the world around the regenerative farm. Okay. The farm is not making enough money to feed the farm, but everybody wants the farm.
Mm-hmm.
But the farm is a place. And what does that place do? And each farm's place can do something else, not just because of what the physical infrastructure is, but also who the people are behind it, what their dreams and goals are, what their skills are. And so a farm can be a place where you have events and group gatherings and corporate things going on and trainings, or it can be a place where you have cooking lessons, and yoga. And, so we start with, who are you and what are your goals and what are your challenges?
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to draw from the kind of age-old truth, which is people want connection. People want access to opportunities. We just need people who can provide those things. So when you work with corporations, when I work with corporations, I like to get kind of right to the heart of things of what is your ultimate dream and goal? What are the challenges that you're facing? What are the fears that you have right now? And then start to ask questions, about what people's skills and passions and other opportunities are. And then just kind of start ideating and playing it out from there and building.
Yeah, that's great. So there's lots of small business owners, and obviously I have a lot of wedding and event planners who are looking to start their own business. So if I want to grow my business and my brand through events, where would I begin?
Ooh, if I want to grow my business through events, where would I begin? You come up with your value proposition, right? Like, who are you? Everything is who are you? And then, they say dream big. Yes, dream big, but also dream scaled. Right? So you have to understand that you could be looking at a minimum of $15,000 for a rental for a space, right? So really understand why you're making an event, and then think about your own network and your own opportunity and your own access points, and come up with an event that's just really fun, right? Like there's just so many ways to tap a niche, but you have to make it palatable to others. So make sure that you're communicating your passion and the things that you love, but that you're not trying to force other people to see your passion and the thing you love, and you're connecting, so you have to do a market analysis. You have to scan, you really have to understand, like, who's my environment? Who's my community? How do I connect with them? How do I get this information? If you're doing a nonprofit event and you don't have a board that has a network, you're going to have to bring PR in. You're going to have to consider, what your resources are to get a headliner, right? To get somebody who they have network capacity. If you're looking to do something by yourself, you're going to have to really think, how long is my timeline? What is my budget? What are my goals? Think to scale.
Yeah. But also, so we do a lot of events for individuals who sell a coaching program, right? Mm-hmm. So let's just use that as an example. You want to build your community. So for example, for myself, I'll use that. I have a community of wedding and event planners who are looking to start their own business. And so I teach how to start the business, right? What is all the different from A to Z, what you need to do to start your business. So I'm building a community right now. I'm getting an email list. I'm collecting my email list, and I'm doing that through lead magnets, things on the 7 biggest mistakes that people make when planning their events and tips to avoid it, or finding a venue, or like all the different things. We have lots of lead magnets. And so that collects my community, and I serve that community through teachings throughout, my videos and having guests on and things like that. And so I could do a lot, which I haven't done, which is funny, but because I know what it's like to do events and I know what it costs. So I'm just teaching through, I have a Facebook group of over almost 4,000 wedding and event planners in there, which is great. And I'm building through that. And someday I may do a live event. It's a lot to get people to travel, especially if they're just starting out in the industry and they don't have a lot of money, because I teach on how to not spend a lot of money. So I think, but if you are anything, it can be anything, teaching, sales and marketing and just all kinds of stuff. IT now is a very big, or AI is a very big thing right now. So there's a lot of people out there teaching it. They could take what they're doing online and bring it into a live event. But those are the things that you want to think about. I think the beginning stages are, building the community and getting that going. And then when you bring them to the event, you're going to teach them all kinds of stuff, give them great content, and then sell them into a bigger coaching program at the end of it. We used to do a lot of those. We haven't done those so much these days, but we love doing those. They're really fun. So there's a lot of people out there who are coaches and, can do a live event, and you can make a lot of money. We've helped a lot of people make a lot of money. So I think just building the community is the beginning stages, and having something that people, want to buy. So I think that's,
you touched on three really interesting things there, right? So one is lead generation, and it looks different for so many people, and it looks different depending on your industry. The next is the power of education, and then the next is live events.
Yep.
And so education is a very broad thing. So sometimes it is the gathering where you have the experts speaking. Sometimes it is an interactive experiential learning.
Mm-hmm.
But what it comes down to is you're providing people this service that they're leaving having this information or this skill that they didn't have before.
Right.
And then the live event is the opportunity to give them an experience and emotion so they leave wanting to come back for more. And then it's once you know what that more is, and doing those surveys and the outreach, you use the fundraising mindset, follow up with people within 24 to 48 hours, learn from them what they liked about it and what they would want more of. And if we offered this, is this something that you would want? And sometimes people are just like, I will do anything for you to do more of this, right? And it can help you to build out what your services are, because people want to provide services that are going to be profitable.
Right. Right. Events are so great for that. So great for that. Look at Tony Robbins. He's made gazillions of dollars doing live events and selling package, coaching and all kinds of stuff. So that's a perfect example of the kind of events that we do. So if I'm looking to hire a consultant to help me with my event, how do I pay a consultant to help me if I'm in pre-revenue stage?
Okay, so you don't have money yet and you want to start an event. The most direct and simple way through it is through a commission, right? So it's kind of a win-win for everyone. If the fear in doing so is, well, if I give a commission, then I'm not going to have enough, then you don't have the money to pay somebody else to help you, right? Like if you deserve to earn income from the work that you're doing, having the event or the service, the people whose job it is to make that event and service successful are supposed to also earn income. And so if it doesn't feel good inside, if you can't pay people up front to pay them a commission, then you're not ready to take that leap.
Correct.
But This is the most direct pathway if you're pre-revenue. And it really isn't everybody wins, because a commission is going to be proportionate to the outcome, right? So you just negotiate what that looks like, or you could do a commission and blended model, this much commission, and you can just come up, depending on your relationship with people, you can invest in the organization too. It's not your obligation to, but you can say, I'm going to do this. And then, over time, this would be a payment schedule. And so that way you can invest in saying, I understand that you need, this cash at this time. I know people will jump to like the idea around bartering. I'm not a fan of the barter system when it comes. It's inequitable and it's messy and it leads to broken hearts.
Yeah.
And so unless that's, bartering is voluntarism, and that's a beautiful thing. I'm all for voluntarism. But I would say, get comfortable with the conversation around commission and then kind of talking about the other creative things, and
Right.
sometimes your commission, it's going to be lower than you can say, I'll take a commission, but I understand that the commission is going to actually be this and my fee is typically this. And so I'd be comfortable doing this commission and then also this.
Some sort of fee or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, that's the best way to do it. So if I want to hire a fundraiser like yourself, what can you do for me to help me raise the money that I need?
Work with you to understand who you are, what your network is, what it is that you're delivering. I've had so many people come to me and say, and I quote, I want to raise $1 million.
Yeah, I know.
It just rolls off people's tongue. I want to raise $1 million. And so coming from a good place to help people the best I can, I say, why, for what, and how, right? And more often than not, I'll hear something like, well, this other person I know did this, or this thing that I, saw did this, or, I know a guy who has this much. And it's like, if you call the billionaire or the millionaire that you know and you say, I'm looking to raise this much money, will you? They're going to say, what's your business model? What's your plan? What's your this, what's that? Or they might say, I'm not interested in this. Sometimes very wealthy people will say, I'm not interested, so here's $1,000 check. Right. And people will have the audacity to be annoyed because they're like, they're worth $1 billion. And it's like, and you're not entitled to that. Right. And it was nice that they gave you $1,000 because they don't even care about what you're doing. They just care about you as a person.
Right.
So expectations management is important. How people react when you do expectations management is very telling of what the process is going to be like. So if people, you should expect people to, have a moment of hurt, right? Of like, oh, I was really looking forward to that. And it's like, I understand, and that idealism is important to have. It gives you energy, it gives you passion. But now here's kind of the reality of it, kind of pared down. And so then you work with people and you say, what have you accomplished in the past? What's your network? What's this? And then you do your research, right? And it depends on what information you have. And so you might have enough information that you can gauge a dollar amount of what's viable. Or you might have enough information that you can provide people with information of, here's what I think is feasible over this period of time. People need to think in an 18 to 24 month time frame, from start to finish. It's really about now the renewals, getting to know what, why, and how. It's like any business, right? So I want to make this product. I want to make a new soda. Okay, so what is it going to be? Who are you going to sell it to? What stores are going to hold it? How are you going to get other people to choose yours over something else? What's your, it's really no different than trying to sell a product, except that you're able to instead even better access human beings who and then you get to call upon the larger foundation and nonprofit world and invite them in as well.
Right. Yeah, it's a tricky thing. We've got, we do the same thing. We interview them and say, okay, what are your goals for this event? But I also have to find out all these different parameters. Can they even actually, I don't want it to not be a success, right? So do they even actually have things in place where they could raise $1 million? What have they raised for the previous event? If they've never done an event, it's not going to happen. So it's just not going to happen. So you have to build up to it, unless, you have very wealthy friends and they're going to give, but it doesn't usually work out like that. So I love talking about this stuff. Obviously, we do tons of these things and we get so many questions. There's a million things we could talk about, but I do this little lightning round. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Let's go for it.
Here, I know, right? So what's the best advice you've ever received?
The purpose in life is to love well and be loved.
Oh, I love that.
From my mom.
Yeah, she's the best. What are you most looking forward to next year?
I'm really excited to relaunch my consulting work. I've been the executive director of an amazing nonprofit for almost 5 years and been doing international NGO work and traveling abroad and just having the time of my life doing amazing work. But I love consulting and I love watching all these different small businesses and nonprofits grow. And I love planting those seeds and watering it. And I'm very excited to take the leap fully back into it.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. So what's one piece of advice you'd give to wedding and event planners who are just starting out?
Get some training, learn how to budget, learn how to time manage, learn how to speak to people well, because you are going to be rallying a lot of people. But do your homework, find an expert and learn from them, because if you don't, you are going to stick out as amateur. And if you stick out as an amateur, you're not going to get good deals, which is going to convert over to your clients. You're not going to create lasting relationships. And it's not going to be the kind of fun, wonderful experience. Amateur feels and looks like amateur, but a little bit of expert training goes so far.
It's so true. I say that all the time. When I first started, I knew how to do events. I did not know how to run the business. So, I've been doing this for over 30 years, but my business I've had for 15 years. So I had no idea and I couldn't get anybody to help me, which is why I always said when I was in my business and it was running along and it was successful, that I was going to help others learn how to start the business and run launch, grow, and build their businesses. That's really what it is. And not spend a lot of money, because you don't need to do that. You don't need to spend a lot of money.
It's the job isn't to be the bride pamperer, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that like takes over people's mindset of like, as long as I keep the bride happy, you can keep the bride happy, but like just do your job really well.
Yeah. No, there's so many things that go into this, but I'm just so thrilled to, have you on the show. And I'm so excited for your new business next year. I can't wait to see what happens and how this grows. And thank you so much for being here.
It is always a pleasure to share time and space with you.
I love you so much. All right. Thank you, everyone. So happy that you're here. And if there's a topic that you're looking for us to talk about, let me know. See you later. Take care.